Now I am a huge John Wick fan. I've loved all three of the previous John Wick movies. The second one is definitely my favorite out of all of them, even though the first one started it all.
That fucking nobody is John Wick.
The second chapter had the best action set pieces in my opinion. 3 wasn't bad, but the film lagged a bit. The unnecessary desert scenes and the introduction of a female assassin called Sophia played by Halle Berry, that character felt forced and behaved like a Mary Sue kinda character. Belittling John Wick every chance she gets, even spitting in his water bottle, and John Wick, the guy who killed 100 people for a dog, lets that disrespect slide. That's so unlikely of him to do so. Coming to the fourth installment, I had a lot of expectations. Unfortunately, those expectations were never reached. To me, the film was underwhelming to a point where I stopped the film after 25 minutes of my second viewing experience. This is most definitely the worst John Wick movie. The film had grand ideas, but the story is so paper thin. In fact, I don't really believe John Wick Chapter 4 even had a script. It was that thin. When it came to dialogues or even acting, performances in the film felt forced and underwhelming. Keanu Reeves now does play the character really well, meaning he works as the character, but there is no story arc or personal experience or change in such a film. The first movie had the heart. Dead wife, her gift Daisy the puppy, who gets killed by a bunch of nobodies. John goes for justice, not revenge.
It was just a fucking car, just a fucking dog.
When Ellen died, I lost everything. Until that dog arrived on my doorstep. And your son took that from me.
You can either hand over your son, or you can die screaming alongside him!
John Wick Chapter 2. John was pulled back into the assassin world by another lunatic, so he could sit at the table and become the head of the assassin world. John kills the guy at the end anyways, which put up a bounty on John Wick's head since he killed somebody at the Continental. This movie felt in balance and a sequel that is better than its prequel. More action, more vintage muscle cars, and more creative killings. At the end, John Wick kills the villain at the Continental, which is against Assassin's Creed. Haha.
What have you done?
Finished it.
In the third movie, Wick's kill count goes up and up as now the people at High Table are mad at him because he isn't following the rules, meeting members of the Hideable in some desert, but had to sacrifice his finger for what? Why?
Why? Why?
Who knows? Anyways, John kills all the villains who came to the Continental to kill Mr. Wick. In Chapter 4, John Wick has been underground hiding from the High Table. We get an absolutely gorgeous desert chase scene on horseback, beautiful cinematography and editing. Wick kills a member of the High Table in the desert after he says John Wick will never be forgiven and the only way for him to gain freedom is in his death. Obviously, he fakes his death at end of the movie. Due to some kind of ritual in Assassin World, Bill Skarsgård aka Marquis de Gramont has gained all the power in the Assassin world. But obviously, due to rules and tradition, John Wick can challenge him on a single one-on-one combat. If he wins, he could not only escape his death, but also become a member of the High Table. Or something. Marquis de Gramont kills the nice receptionist at the New York Continental and then blows up the Continental.
You are no longer New York.
Marquis then hires Kane, a blind assassin, to hunt and kill his friend John Wick. Marquis threatens Kane's daughter. He takes the job to keep her safe. And then we get introduced to the Continental in Japan. Hiroyuki Sanada and his daughter takes care of the facility. Akira warns her father against allowing John Wick. She was right. Marquis de Gramont sent his kill squad to murder John Wick, but fails since John Wick has friends everywhere. These fight scenes were brutal and amazing at the same time. Crossbow and samurai swords versus French guns. Coolest fight scene I've seen in any movie yet. Kane the blind assassin seems like that dude, don't need eyes to kill. Could you imagine if he had any? He'd be deadlier than John Wick himself. I mean, John Wick gets sidelined in those fights, but he makes for it later with his nunchakus. Give John Wick a few pencils, he'll kill with those, and now imagine giving the guy nunchakus. The fight scene with Kane and John Wick was too precious to ignore altogether. Donnie Yen playing a blind hitman very similar to his role in Star Wars, yet this one seemed more refined. Very similar to Daredevil, The scene had weight and gravitas because Kane and John Wick are friends, and now we as audience care for them. We are rooting for the both of them to survive. The fight between Hiroyuki Sanada and Donnie Yen had a lot of weight as well. Kane cares about his daughter whom he can't be close with as that would risk her life. Shimazu Koji has a daughter whom he loves, basically a life Kane wishing he had. Taking that away from the both of them must have hurt his soul.
Don't live.
Shamir Anderson plays a very interesting character called the Tracker. Dude plays a bounty hunter who has a keen eye to track John Wick, unlike Marquis de Graymont. So Marquis hired him through a stab and pull scheme. It's hilarious.
What the fuck is this, man?
A choice.
Later John Wick goes back to his family of assassins. Dude almost dies, but somehow convinces them to agree with him. But first he has to kill Scott Adkins in a fat suit for killing Pieter. John Wick does exactly that, but with more vigor and charm. Scott Adkins definitely owned the character of killer by being over-the-top evil, over-the-top dramatization, over-the-top animated expressions. He owned that character with thick skin, literally.
Oh, okay, I feel very uncomfortable.
After killing like 200 people in Scott Adkins, John Wick gets sponsored by the assassin family for his duel with Pennywise. But first let's get matching fire tattoos. Oh yes, so badass, haha. It's been 1 hour and 30 minutes and I have started to feel that time. This movie should have ended right here in my opinion, cause it seems like they're dragging the movie forwards. There is a shot of Winston walking for at least 15 seconds for some reason, dragging it forward. Boys, Winston informs Marquis de Graymont about the duel. He accepts it, but he wants Kane to be his substitute. I have to say, the filmmakers choose the best places for this movie. Beautifully shot, well lit, gorgeous looking movie, just like Batman v Superman, gorgeous looking but just really flawed.
You're letting him kill Martha.
What does that mean? Why did you say that name?
Why did you say that name? Martha, why did you say that name? Why did you say that name?
It's his mother's name. It's his mother's name.
You serious?
Slow-paced, too long, shame. John Wick 4 could have been something special. Later John Wick and Kane meet at a church. They talk about his dead wife and afterlife. Basically the filmmakers suggesting or foreshadowing Wick's death, or is he even? As usual, like every coward in this franchise, Marquis de Graymont issues new bills for Wick's head, this time $26 million. And obvious John Wick traveled through stairs and cars and bullets. At the end he reached the duel's location finally. There were some old PC arcade game type of situation going on in there. Weird filming style anyways. At the end of the duel, John Wick loses, Kane wins, and the bad guy as usual gets shot in the gut by Mr. Wick. The film suggests that John Wick is dead, but I don't think so, because this movie made close to $400 million worldwide. It's one of Lionsgate's greatest IPs. They would let it go now. There is a scene in film where Wick's on top of a car and he's shooting the driver. There is another where he rolls down 3 flights of stairs. I'm sure stunt doubles were used, but I promise I've never seen such madness on a screen before. Blood-rushing madness, in a good way. Besides, the alternative to this is Fast X, not worth the money. I'd recommend you rather stick with John Wick instead. Total score, 7/10.
See you soon.